All right, so are you ready to dive deep? Today, we're tackling manifesting abundance. But, and here's the twist, not the usual vision board, law of attraction stuff.
Right.
We're going deeper. Our listener wants to get to the core of this idea of abundance as, like, an internal state.
Absolutely.
And get this. What if abundance isn't actually something you get, but something you become?
Hmm.
Pretty wild, huh? And we've got some seriously thought-provoking material here that really flips the script on that whole more is always better thing.
Yeah.
Oh, and we've got this really interesting bagel analogy we'll be unpacking. It's supposed to totally change how we think about what we already have. And honestly, I'm intrigued to see where this goes.
Me too.
And just to add another layer, we're even going to delve into why someone like David Rockefeller, I mean, talk about one of the wealthiest guys ever,
Yeah.
still felt like something was missing.
It is fascinating how often we kind of get caught up in the trap of thinking abundance is just about, well, stuff, like more
Okay.
things.
Oh, totally.
I mean, even the dictionary, right?
Yeah.
The dictionary definition of abundance is focused on quantity. But it never really specifies a quantity of what,
That's a good point.
And the source we're looking at today really zeroes in on that as the problem. It argues that abundance isn't about how much you can accumulate outside of yourself. It's about a deeper sense of wholeness. It doesn't actually matter what your external circumstances are.
Okay, so I'm trying to follow this, but it does go against, like, pretty much everything we're taught, right?
Yeah.
Bigger house, nicer car, more money in the bank. That's the equation for success, or so we're told.
Right.
But what you're saying is that's all an illusion.
Well, not necessarily an illusion, but it's definitely an incomplete picture, I'd say. It's like, imagine looking at a bagel, okay?
Okay.
But all you can see is that hole in the middle.
Uh-huh.
You're so fixated on what's missing that you completely miss the delicious, perfectly good bagel that's right there in your hand.
Oh, wait a minute. The bagel analogy, that's from the
Fishing.
source, right? Okay, now I see what they're getting at. We get so stuck in this loop of focusing on what we don't have that we totally overlook all the abundance that's already present. Is that it?
Exactly. And that's where gratitude comes in. Instead of always wanting more, we can start shifting our focus to appreciating what we already have. Even those small things, the little things that we often take for granted.
Mhm.
That's where that sense of internal abundance, that feeling, really starts to take root.
Okay, but let's get real for a second. How many of us are actually walking around feeling super grateful for, like, our socks or something? I mean, it still feels kind of abstract to me.
Well, think about David Rockefeller. Here's a guy who, had more money than most of us could even dream of.
For sure.
But when someone asked him, what does it take to be happy? His answer was, and I quote, just a little bit more.
Oh, wow.
So even with all that wealth, his focus was still on what was lacking.
That's actually kind of depressing when you think about it. But I guess it makes you wonder, right? If even a guy like Rockefeller couldn't buy his way to feeling content, then what's the point of always chasing that external success? Is that what this whole deep dive is really all about? Redefining what success even means.
I'd say that's a big part of it, absolutely. The source really emphasizes this need for a perspective shift.
Yeah.
It's not about, denying that desire for nice things. It's more about understanding that true fulfillment, that deep down happiness,
Yeah.
has to come from within.
Okay, yeah.
And that actually leads us to a really interesting concept that the source dives into.
Ooh, okay, I love where this is going. Hit me with it.
So the source argues that life isn't something that's happening to you, it's actually happening through you. Like every thought, every feeling, every belief you hold is actually shaping your reality.
Mm,
It's kind of like the law of attraction, but takes it to a whole new level.
okay.
It's saying you attract what you are, not just what you want.
Okay, wait a minute. So are we saying here that our thoughts really have the power to create our reality?
Mhm.
Like, if I'm always stressing about money, am I actually attracting more financial problems into my life?
It's not quite as simple as just like, think it and it will come, right?
Right. Yeah.
But there is some really fascinating research that supports this idea.
Okay.
For example, there are neuroscientists who have found that our brains, get this, often show activity before we even consciously register a thought or emotion.
Whoa.
So it's like our subconscious mind is working behind the scenes, shaping our experiences based on these deeply held beliefs that we might not even be aware of.
That is so trippy. So even if I'm not consciously thinking about it, my underlying thoughts and feelings are already creating my reality. But hold on, if our current reality is like a reflection of our past thoughts and beliefs, how do we actually change that?
Right.
Can we, like, rewire our brains to think differently? I mean, is that even possible?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? And luckily, this source offers some real hope. It suggests that, yes, we can actually change those deeply ingrained patterns,
Oh, good.
but it's going to take some conscious effort and a new set of tools.
Okay, I am all ears. What kind of tools are we talking about here? Give me the inside scoop.
Well, one of the most powerful tools, and the source really emphasizes this, is choosing to experience more elevated emotions. So things like gratitude, love, joy, even excitement. And the key here is deliberately focusing on those emotions instead of defaulting to that lack mindset, the fear and scarcity.
So instead of freaking out about bills, I should be doing a gratitude dance for having a roof over my head. I mean, honestly, that feels a little bit forced right now.
I get it. It's not about ignoring the reality of your situation or pretending like everything's perfect.
Right.
It's more about making an intentional shift in your focus, even just a little bit, to appreciate what is working in your life right now.
Okay, I see the difference. But how does that actually rewire anything? Is this where, like, the whole vibrational frequency thing comes in? Be honest, I've always been a little bit skeptical about that stuff.
Yeah, it can sound a bit woo-woo, I know. But stick with me for a second.
Okay.
The source argues that our thoughts and feelings actually have an energy, like a frequency,
Okay.
and that we attract experiences that match that vibe.
Hmm.
And this isn't just some airy-fairy concept. There's actually a growing body of research out there that's exploring how our energy fields can interact with the world around us. It's some pretty cutting-edge stuff.
Okay, now we're getting into some serious deep dive territory. I'm intrigued, but I think I need a little bit more to really grasp this whole energy thing.
Sure. Well, think about it this way. Have you ever walked into a room and just immediately felt a certain energy, even before anyone said a word?
Oh, yeah.
Like you could just sense whether it was a positive or negative vibe.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, that's your own energy field, picking up on the frequencies of the people and the environment around you.
Okay, I've definitely felt that. But how does that tie back to abundance?
Well, think of it like tuning a radio.
Okay.
If you want to listen to a specific station, you have to dial in the right frequency, right?
Right.
Well, the same goes for attracting abundance. If you're constantly broadcasting this frequency of lack and scarcity, that's what you're going to attract more of. But if you can shift your internal state to one of gratitude, joy, and trust, then you'll start to attract experiences that match those higher frequencies.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it, but this is a lot to process. I mean, we've covered so much ground already, and it feels like we've barely scratched the surface.
I know, right? There's still so much more to explore. This source is just jam-packed with insights.
For sure.
But before we jump into the next concept, I'm curious, what's really stood out to you so far? What's resonating with you the most?
To be honest, this whole concept that our thoughts can really shape our reality is kind of blowing my mind. It's exciting, but it's also a little bit daunting, right?
Yeah, I get that.
Like, if I'm really responsible for my own energy, I better make sure I'm putting out some good vibes.
Exactly. And that's where this idea from the source about taking responsibility for our thoughts and feelings really comes into play.
Yeah.
It's not about blaming ourselves for every little negative experience.
Right.
It's more about recognizing that we actually have the power to choose a different perspective, a different emotional state.
Okay, yeah.
It's like we're given this incredible toolbox, but most of us were walking around only using a hammer when we have screwdrivers and wrenches and all sorts of cool gadgets just waiting to be used.
Okay, I like that analogy. So instead of constantly dwelling on what's missing, we can actually like consciously choose to focus on what we're grateful for, even if it feels, I don't know, small or insignificant at first.
Exactly. And there's actually a fascinating neurological basis for this. A study by Dr. Rick Hansen, he's at UC Berkeley, found that focusing on positive experiences actually strengthens the neural pathways in our brains that are associated with happiness and well-being. It's like we're building mental muscles for abundance.
So the more we actually practice gratitude, the easier it becomes to actually see the world through that kind of lens. That actually makes a lot of sense. But I'm still kind of stuck on this whole idea of embracing the unknown that keeps coming up in the source. I mean, it sounds a bit scary, to be honest.
Yeah.
Isn't the whole point of manifesting to, like, create a very specific outcome?
Right.
How can we embrace the unknown if we already have this, like, crystal clear vision of what we want?
It's a great question, and it's one that a lot of people struggle with, for
Yeah.
sure. The source isn't suggesting that we should completely abandon our goals or desires. Think of it more like, you set sail for a destination, but you're open to adjusting your course along the way.
Oh, okay.
You might encounter unexpected wins, or you might discover a hidden island you never even knew existed.
Okay, so instead of like rigidly clinging to one very specific outcome, we need to be open to those new possibilities and maybe even unexpected opportunities that pop up. And those might be even better than what we initially imagined, right?
Exactly. When we release the need for that absolute control, that need to have everything figured out, and we kind of surrender to the flow of life a little bit, that's when we open ourselves up to this whole realm of possibilities that we might have missed otherwise.
That's interesting. I know for me personally, I get so laser focused on like achieving this specific goal that I totally miss out on enjoying the journey and all the amazing experiences that are happening along the way.
That's so common. We get caught up in that, destination mindset, and we forget that life is really about the journey, the unfolding, the surprises that come along the way. That's where the magic often happens.
Yeah.
And think about it, clinging too tightly to one specific outcome, it can actually block abundance from flowing into your life. It's like squeezing a fist around a tiny seed. You're basically suffocating its potential to grow.
Wow, that is a powerful image. So, by embracing the unknown, we're actually creating space for those unexpected opportunities to kind of emerge. I like that. It feels less about giving up control and more about trusting that something, maybe even better, might be just around the corner.
Exactly. And remember what we talked about earlier, that